Well, hello, Rebecca.
How's it going?
How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
What are you up to?
Stirring this butter
Why are you stirring butter?
because we're making brownies.
We're going to make brownies. Oh. And that makes me think about our trip to Europe.
Why does it make you think about our trip to Europe?
Because we did all kinds of chocolate things on our trip. We went to the Lent Home of Chocolate in Zurich.
We did.
Which was an amazing place. Incredible tour there. And we also went to Brussels and did our own chocolate workshop.
Right.
Yeah.
Chocolate is not easy to make.
It is not.
So when we got back home, we were like, we need to find someone around these parts that can make some chocolate. And we did. We found KATE SHAFFER. She owns Ragged Coast Chocolate. It's in Maine. And she sent us some goodies, including this brownie mix, which is one of their best sellers. So we're going to pop these brownies in the oven, and then we're going to interview KATE SHAFFER. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited to talk about chocolate with you. What a cool job you have. I mean, what a cool job. I would weigh 1,000 pounds. You probably hear that all the time. I don't know how you don't, but maybe you're tired of eating chocolate. Do you get tired of eating chocolate?
No, I think it helps that wasn't really that into chocolate before we started this business. And I mean, I liked it, of course. I mean, chocolate cake is one of my favorite foods in the whole world. But I wasn't like obsessed with it like a lot of people are. And, or people tend to be who like chocolate, like that's what they're all about. So I went in with really kind of a cook's mindset rather than a chocolate lover's mindset. And I love it more now than I ever have. And I mean, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't have some chocolate, but yeah, I'm not even close to sick of it. I don't think that will happen.
I don't think that'll happen. So tell us about the beginnings of Ragged Coast Chocolate, because are your beginnings like a chef?
Well, yes, I guess so. I was definitely a cook before I was a chocolate maker, and I kind of went into it with that. I mean, I've always liked, when I was a kid, every kid likes to bake. Well, most kids like to bake because it's something easy. Not that chocolate making is baking, but sweet stuff. And but I really started out as a cook or a chef, and moved into chocolate making from that background, which is very different than most chocolate makers. Most chocolate makers train in pastry arts or confectionery, and I did not come into it that way. My phone is ringing, and I'm just going to let it ring through, and we might hear somebody leave a message, and that's fine.
That's fine.
Really cool.
Totally cool. So how did you come up with the name of your store?
Yeah, so Maine has, if you can believe it, almost 3,500 miles of coastline. Okay, that's more coastline than my home state of California, which is a really long state.
Wow.
But because we have so many inlets and bays and islands, I mean, Maine has like 300 islands, more than 300 islands.
Wow.
And so when you count all that coastline and the way that it's shaped, if you look at the coast of Maine, it's very ragged. And we're Maine based, very, very local, feet in the ground here. And so we really wanted a name that represented the state.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely perfect. We went to Maine. What was that?
Yeah, we were looking into it. We weren't too far from you. We flew into Portland.
Yeah, we wish we would have known you before now, because we would have definitely come by your shop. But we'll have to make another trip up there.
That's right.
Because there's so much to do.
Yeah.
But when were you in Maine?
A couple years ago, October
of 22, I think.
Yeah. And we went to Portland, but then made our way up to our harbor through on the coast. So through Camden and some of those fun towns. And so we know all about that Ragged Coast.
Yes, you do.
I've gone off of it for a while. It is so beautiful.
It is. It really is.
It is so beautiful. How did you get from California to Maine?
I fell in love with a boy.
That'll do it.
really wanted to come back to Maine. So
Okay, so he's from there.
yeah, well, Steve is originally from Pennsylvania.
Okay.
But he is a graduate of University of Maine at Orono and lived here for many, many years and just really just loved it. And, I always, when we met in California and he kind of told me the lore of Maine, it's this magical, mystical, beautiful place. And I was sold on it before I ever stepped foot in the state.
And now do you feel the same way about it? Like, did you fall in love with Maine?
Yeah, for sure. I think it helps too that I was very lucky to have this kind of amazing introduction. So I got a job as a chef on a tiny island off the coast here, and up it's we call it down east, but it's really up the coast and out a little bit. But and the island it was only accessible by boat, and I got a job as a chef at a lighthouse inn. And so it was, I lived in like a cow shack and there was no electricity. And it was this wacky island with like 40 year-round residents. And it was, especially coming from a background where I'm a storyteller, I majored in writing and I've written books, and that was the perfect introduction for me, was to be introduced to my new home on this island that we ended up living on for 14 years.
Oh my goodness. That is incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome.
One of the favorite places that we went was Ogunquit.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
What a great little town.
And somehow we got into a
high heel dash.
Yes.
Yes.
A what?
A high heel dash.
Like a race in high heels.
Oh,
it
really?
Was, yes. Yes, actually. Yes. And given the nature of the race, he was actually more suited to wear heels than I was, because that was what I think it was.
Hey, we didn't break an ankle.
It was for drag queens. We did not know that. We signed up for Texas and we were like, let's do that. So fun. And we show up and we're like, you're running this race.
That's amazing.
Well, let me tell you, it's hard to run in heels. I feel for y'all.
Yeah.
He said we took
you got to stay on your toes.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It was day one and we landed at noon and the race was like at 3. And I said, we have got to get there. We didn't know what we were in for. We had no idea what this was for, but we get there and I all of a sudden start taking in all my context cues and realizing that this was a race for drag queens, and which was fine. Anybody was able to join, but Scott definitely was more suited for the task, and he's very fast, but he was like,
they blew my doors off. I had
these
no
guys
chance.
have been running in heels way longer than me.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was so much fun. It was
yeah.
Okay, so when we think of chocolate, Willy Wonka was like my favorite movie of last year. I just loved it. And when we think of chocolate, we think all of this magical stuff. He has a briefcase where he just pulls out whatever flavor he wants and all that. But tell us how it really is to come up with flavors, and how do you come up with the idea of flavors to put in the chocolates, and what's worked best, and what are some that you're like, I'm never trying that again?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so for me, it's not like Willy Wonka at all. But I'm in my office and it's a little cramped in here, but so I sort of come more at it like, have you ever seen the movie Chocolat?
We did not see that. Did you see it?
I think I've seen it.
Okay, I have not seen
it.
Yeah,
it's an old movie. But I kind of come at it more like that. Again, I'm coming from a culinary background, not a pastry arts or confectionery. So I really think, I think about chocolate confections more holistically, I think. So I'm not tied to traditional flavors, although I do like them. There's no doubt about that. But I really, because so much of my cooking career is based on striking the right balance of savory and sweet and bitter and all that. That's where I start, and so it's really more of a, it's from a heart-centered place.
Mhm.
You know, some confectioners will come at it very scientifically, or from pastry arts place. I come from a very heart-centered place, which is, what do I want to feel when I bite into this piece of
Mm.
chocolate?
Mm.
You know, and so I'm thinking about, do I want it to remind me of my childhood or my Aunt Catherine, or, you know, so, you know, something else, a memory or whatever. And that's where I'm really coming from. And so I'm drawing from memory and romance and the great state of Maine and all it has to offer ingredients wise. And that's where I get my inspiration.
That's so cool because you don't think about like, I mean, I guess I wouldn't think about like a piece of chocolate drawing a memory, but that is a great way to go about making that. Like, what a beautiful thing. Like, that's
Yeah.
almost poetic. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I have had some really horrible disasters. There's no doubt about it. I mean, a lot of them are like, they don't come together right, or, you know, so I work a lot with farmers in our area because I source a lot of our ingredients from local family farms. And my friend Beth at Dandelion Spring Farm said, "Hey, I really want you to make a parsnip chocolate." And I said, "Okay." And so she gave me a bunch of spring dug parsnips. And I don't know if you're familiar with spring dug parsnips, but they are the ugliest of the ugly of parsnips. They're just really like gnarly and fat and just super knobby and weird looking. And I was like, God, I just don't have an affinity with parsnips. And so the chocolate didn't turn out great at all. And so that, you know, took a dive. I told her I'd try again. I haven't yet, but that was definitely a big failure. But you know,
Yeah.
that's how you do it.
We went to we actually just went to Brussels and Bruges, Belgium, not too long ago.
Ooh.
We did take a chocolate making class.
Oh,
So
wow.
So we're basically professionals
no,
now, right?
we're not at
No, we're
all.
not.
Totally. Yeah.
To put chocolate and how to get the shiny coat, you know, and all that stuff. And I mean, we went in tons of chocolate places, especially in Bruges. Obviously, tons of options to pick from. And you know what? I've never once thought about all the things they had to fail at to get to all
The
these
flavors they
wonderful
got,
things.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure
Right.
so much of that you've just thrown in the trash and said no. And then
Yeah.
these things work. Probably if it were me, I would say this would work. And then I wouldn't remember what I did to that to make it work. So you probably have to be pretty diligent in that too.
That happens a lot with me, actually. And my right hand woman here, I think I must drive her crazy. She does come from a pastry arts background. She worked as a pastry chef for 22 years, and she's very meticulous and very like organized and takes good notes and all that stuff. I am very much, you know, shoot from the hip and loosey goosey, and I never write down anything when I'm creating something. I'm like, oh, I'll remember, except now I'm 52 and I don't remember anything anymore. So it does sort of just like, so are you gonna write that down? Are you gonna write it down while it's still in your head?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that I think comes with being like super artistic. I think that is just your brain just goes in that direction and it's hard to stop it. You know, he's super
I'm kind of that
artistic.
way too, yeah.
I can,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
yes.
It's a good partnership when you have one person that will write everything down and the other person obviously doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless I have no idea what you're doing, like her.
Yeah.
Then it's just trying to figure out what you did in your brain. So we're going to send people to your website because the chocolates are so beautiful. But what are some of your absolute favorites, and what are some of your best sellers?
Yeah, so our best sellers are really our main sea salt caramels. So those are our house-made vanilla and sea salt caramel covered in our direct trade dark chocolate from Ecuador and garnished with the little Maine sea salt. And every, you know, that's very the American palate, right? You know, people here just love that sweet salty flavor combination. So those are really a big seller. Our next bestseller is our farm market collection. And so this collection is really dear to my heart. So when we started our business, we peddled our chocolates at every farmer's market you could think of. Because we were definitely bootstrapping and we lived on an island with 40 people. It's not like this huge market to, sell our chocolate to. And so we went off island and we did the farmers market circuits. And I was really inspired by all the vendors and farmers that were there. And I created a collection using their produce. And so to this day, that's probably our best-selling collection overall.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's really cool. And then you also have some mixes too, right?
yeah. So we launched a baking mix product line and baking chocolate product line last year?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a year and a half ago. And that is really fun. So those mixes feature our direct trade chocolate. So all of our chocolate is coming from Ecuador, Peru, Dominican Republic, and it's made by a manufacturer that trades directly with the family farmers that grow the cacao, which is really important to us. And it's also a brand that isn't available in the United States on the retail level. So, and I love it so much and I bake with it all the time that I really wanted to bring it to the home cook. And so that's where the inspiration for the baking mixes came from. We also in Maine have, we grow a lot of wheat here. And so we have some really great mills, local mills, and I source our wheat flour and we use whole grain wheat flour in the mixes, and you never know it in a million years. But because it's coming from such an incredible stone mill up in Skowhegan, Maine, the flour is really milled super fine, so that it's almost like a regular all-purpose flour that you'd use to bake or whatever. And it's so fresh. When I order it, they mill it to order.
Wow.
And if you've never had fresh wheat flour before, the taste is so different than what you buy in the grocery store. It's just like full of flavor. And so the mixes don't have that many ingredients in them. They just have really good ingredients. And so what happens is, we're starting off strong from the get-go, and then we add this great chocolate, and they're so easy. And it's been a really fun line to develop.
So can the average person order that flour, or is that like something direct for?
Yeah, so yes, so that is available on the retail level. You can go to Maine Grain's website and order online. Yep.
Okay, yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
for sure.
So you mentioned starting a small business, and you really started small. You had 40 customers.
On your own.
So I think you've been doing it maybe 17 years now, 17 or 18.
Yeah.
So what's it like owning a small business? And if someone wants to get into that, what would be some tips you would have?
Yeah.
What have been the hard things and running a small business? Yeah.
In our experience, and maybe this isn't everybody's experience who has a small business, and there are different definitions of small business. Like, we are small, like we actually produce a lot of chocolate, but we have including myself and Steve, we have 3 full-time employees, and then a couple part-time, and then a lot of seasonal employees, because our busiest time is in the winter. So actually a lot of local farmers, when their season ends, they come and work for us in the winter time to get through the holidays. So again, I'm coming from the very small business, and it's never not hard.
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
It's always it's always challenging. And I mean, I, you know, it, no one starts a small business or a family business to get rich. You do it because it's something you believe in, or that this is, or you don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah.
And or you have a dream of changing the world, one tiny business at a time. And that's, definitely part of where we're coming from. We're a very value-based business. We believe in, all that direct trade and fair trade and using local resources and all that. And this is how we can really make an impact and kind of shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing about being a small business, is that you can do that. You can put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah,
That's
for
awesome.
sure. Okay, it's interesting that you said you're busiest in the winter. Is that strictly just holidays? Because I would think winter, when we were up there in the winter, everything shut down. Like we barely
Yeah.
could see restaurants that were open. So why are
That-
you so busy in the winter? Is it Christmas?
Yeah, so because we are primarily an online business,
Okay.
we do, and this is true of most small chocolate makers, and actually all the big chocolate makers too. We do half our annual sales, half in the last 2 months of the year.
Oh,
That is
wow.
crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
it
Wow.
is so intense.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just wouldn't know unless you worked for a chocolate maker at some point
Yeah.
in your life. And if you ever meet somebody who has it, like, oh yeah, the winter holidays, Christmas is just insane.
Okay.
And it doesn't stop. Like, then you get to New Year's and you have like 2 seconds to catch your breath and you're right into Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
And
no.
which is the second biggest chocolate holiday, right after
Yeah.
Christmas.
That makes
And it's so intense. And it's kind of what we wanted, because in Maine is so, as you know, it's so seasonal. And the summers, especially if you work in the service industry, which I'm very thankful I don't anymore, even though we do have a store. It's not quite the same as like being a restaurant. We had a cafe when we were on the island. So for 8 years, we did run a restaurant. But so in the summertime, wow, Maine, it is intense. It is really busy and really crowded and all that stuff. And so people who live here don't actually get a chance to enjoy the best time of year, which is
Yeah.
summers.
Yeah.
Maine summers are incredible. And so we really wanted to create a model where we could have things a little easier in the summer and then work our tails off in the winter, when most people who have cottage businesses in Maine are trying to scrape together a living. And for the most part, it has ended up working that way. It didn't at first, because we did run a cafe on the island for 8 years that featured our chocolates. And it was a big part of building our brand when we were there. But now I think we're there. We're busy in the winter and we have a little time in the summer.
So how early can you make chocolate to sell, like at Christmas? How far
Yeah.
out, like how far can you prepare?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. It's for small makers like us, which there are a lot of in this country now, who don't believe in using preservatives or, loading everything with sugar, who are using fresh ingredients and fresh ground spices and all that stuff. The window is very short. So yeah, so the shelf life on our fresh cream, truffles, and bonbons is 3 to 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we have an in-time production model. We don't actually make anything until we have an order for it.
Okay.
And so the way we've worked that with our website is that you can pre-order. And then we ship it. So we start taking pre-orders for Christmas in October.
Okay.
And And so we build our sales. We know exactly what we're going to be making. Our deadline is the first or second week of December, depending on when I start to cry. But so we cut it off, and we have a very clear idea of how much product we have to make. And so we try and staff for that. We get all of our ingredients in way ahead of time. And we know, I mean, in an ideal world, we know exactly how much product we're going to make.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't account for our walk-in traffic, which does pick up around Christmas. It doesn't account for, last minute, people calling me up because it's me and Steve answering the phone.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to say no to somebody. Don't
Yeah.
advertise that. When they're like, I really
Yeah.
need something for Christmas.
Mhm.
But yeah, so ideally our goal is always to know exactly how much product we're going to be
That you're
making,
gonna need, yeah.
because that window is so short.
Yeah, on your mixes, can you make those early?
Yeah, so the mixes, even with the fresh milled flour, the shelf life on those is technically 6 months.
Okay.
I've used them way beyond that, but that's how we date them.
Very
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, yeah, that makes that at least portion is a little more manageable, but goodness,
Yeah.
that is a
Yeah.
lot of chocolate making on the tail end.
Yeah,
No wonder
it's
you
a lot,
stay employed.
very intense. Yeah.
Okay, now that we've stressed you out talking about work and your busy season,
Mhm.
we wanted to end. I saw that you and your husband, we love to travel and just do odd things traveling. And we noticed that you walked across England. Is that the vacation you took last
New
summer?
England,
Yeah.
northern. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That come about and what was that like?
Yeah, so I have always had this dream of taking a walking vacation. And England is special because they have this tradition of public right of way. So there are basically there is a public right for people to walk across any piece of land in England. Now, those are negotiated trails. I mean, it's not just like a free for all, but there are the network of trails through England is massive and extensive. And it's a small country, of course, but you can go anywhere walking on your own 2 feet. And so I've always had this fantasy of just walking from tiny village to tiny village. And we finally did it this past summer. We
have to do this.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's really fun. And I can tell you more about we actually went through an organization who planned the so they have a whole bunch of trips through England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales.
Mm.
And there are established trails. Some are more traversed than others. And this is a very common type of vacation that people in the UK will take. Because it's just very traditional. And so we booked with them, and they made all of our reservations for us and gave us the option of having our packs transported so that we didn't have to carry them, which was amazing. Because we had long days of walking. It was like, 10 to 15 or 10 to 20 miles a day, basically.
Wow, for how many days?
So ours was 8 days.
Okay.
And that's where, because I thought we booked for 9 days, and then we get there and our first day was 18 miles. I'm like, why is it 18 miles? That makes no sense.
I'm doing the math. That doesn't math.
Right. And then yeah, so there was a little miscommunication there. So anyway, it was fine. But it was amazing.
Were you mainly staying in hotels and hostels or something like that along the way?
So we stayed mostly pubs.
Oh.
So the English pub is pretty cool. It's both food, drink, and rooms. And and there's a million of them. I mean, every tiny town has at least 2 or 3 pubs, so that works. And they're very well used in the summer times because everybody in England is taking their vacation, and these are very common places to stay in tiny towns, especially in the north. I don't think we ran into a single American when we were there. Most people thought we were Australian, which we're like, really? They're like, well, we never get Americans up here. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
So fun.
Yeah. And then every once in a while we would stay in a bed and breakfast.
Okay.
And that was really nice because, you know, it was just very friendly and you know, beautiful gardens.
So
really,
you're just walking for 18 miles and taking in all the beautiful scenery.
it's
And
incredible. Yeah.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, we're doing it.
This is on our
Okay.
list.
Yeah.
You've added it to your list because I don't make the list.
That's right. I'm the list maker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the food was really good. You know, that they do dairy products like nobody else, right?
Sure.
So I mean, like, in every breakfast was served with like a wedge of butter, like not like
that is your kind of breakfast.
Yeah.
right? I mean, like it was like a cheese wedge of butter. It was so good.
That's so funny that you can never get enough butter with whatever you order. So
True.
this is a vacation made for you.
Yeah.
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 That's so fun. Kate, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today. You live a fascinating life. I hope we come back to Maine and come straight into your store and see
Oh,
for us right there. That would be so fun. We would love that. But thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes.
Okay, take care.
Love
Thanks
it.
so much.
Thank you so much, Kate.
Okay, that interview with Kate was amazing.
She's pretty awesome.
She is awesome, babe. We've got to get back to Portland, Maine.
We do.
That's
for
right.
the scenery and the chocolates.
That's
for sure.
right. Yeah.
For me, the coolest thing that she talked about when I asked about how do you decide what flavors you're going to make, and I was expecting a very technical answer, but we got more of a artistic answer.
Yeah.
Because she was just saying what's in her heart, like. She just thinks of things and it comes from the heart. Her flavors come from the heart.
Yeah, you
I thought
actually
that was cool.
also don't really think about how many times they fail at putting flavors together
yeah.
before they actually get like the winning combination.
For sure.
Which is so interesting.
I know. So while the brownies are cooking, they're in the oven right now, we're going to try the chocolates that Kate sent us.
That's right. And they look amazing.
They do.
Show them the inside of the box.
Show them the inside of the box? Hopefully I don't drop them out. Oh my, look at that.
Yeah.
They're so pretty.
They are
These
beautiful.
look better than the ones we did in Brussels.
Okay, I think we should try this one first, the blue one.
Okay, what's the
The
blue
blue one is blueberry black pepper.
Okay.
Okay, who would put
I don't
those
know what that
flavors
means.
together?
Are we just splitting one?
Sure, let's split
Okay.
it.
There you go.
Okay.
We have to dink it. And sing it.
Okay, I like that.
I do too.
I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of fruit and chocolate unless it's strawberries. But that is good.
It's pretty good. It's good stuff. And it looked pretty too.
I can make myself sick on that.
Okay. Are we going to try another?
Let's try one more.
Okay, that is very sweet, people.
It is so sweet. This one is
Okay.
just calling my name.
Wow.
Northern apple.
Northern apple.
Yeah.
Okay, are you ready? Oh, do you want some? Okay.
I like that better.
I like this better. It's not punchy in the face like the other one was.
Wow, that's good. Ooh,
That's good stuff.
There's the apple. I found
There
it.
is some apple. Okay,
like all
it
the
starts
layers.
out like as a caramel chocolate thing, and then it turns into apple pie. Okay,
That's
that's
right.
freaky. This is like Willy Wonka, guys. This totally changed into something else. Are we going to start levitating and flying around the room? That'd be kind of cool.
I don't know if we're going to do that.
Do we have one of those that does that?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
don't think we have any of those. Or do you want to try another one? or do
Okay,
you
let's
wanna
try
make
one
brownies?
more before
One more.
our sugar
you
levels
pick
are
it,
way
and
off.
I'll tell you what it is. Ooh,
Okay.
But actually, I want to pick it.
Okay, you pick it.
Can I pick it?
No, you pick it.
This one right here. Okay, this one is Maine, like the state, Maine.
Okay.
Mint.
Maine mint.
Mint. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see.
So it kind of looks
that's
like.
not a very big
Oh
piece.
wow,
I'm so
she doesn't
sorry.
want to share.
Here you go.
Okay. Okay. It's good too.
Okay.
It's
This
funny.
is like a really fancy peppermint patty.
Yeah, it's a much higher level. But it's interesting how they start out one way and then they end the other.
I know.
I know, this is
I'm always
amazing. This is like
fascinated.
magic.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated in like chef shows where they talk about the layers of flavor and it's got this on the front end and then like that on the back end and like how do they know?
And I
what
never
flavors
really
you're gonna go
experienced that till now.
till now.
I know. Amazing stuff.
That's right. All right, we'll be back with some brownies. Okay, the brownies are hot out of the oven. Now, let me tell you something. You have to cook these brownies and pay attention to the directions. These are not your typical box brownies you get at the store. You do have to add egg and you do have to add butter, but there's a few different things you have to do. And then I think one of the key things, which we've learned through this process, and it says it on the directions, is let them cool completely because I think that's how they like finally set. So with that being said, you ready?
Well, I just hope everyone was listening because I was just thinking I want to eat this.
Well, it's time
Okay.
for you to eat this.
Okay, let's try it. If they're as good as the chocolates, we're in good shape here. Okay.
So good. The only thing
What do you think?
missing is a big scoop of vanilla ice cream.
I like being in the kitchen and not making a mess. Remember our last video in the kitchen? It was a little messy.
Yeah,
This
it
has
was
not
a
been
little
quite as messy. Okay.
This is very, very
is.
delicious. You guys should hop on their website right now and order you some of this brownie mix. Order some chocolates. We found there's a couple of other things in the box that were really good. These tahini bites and those peanut butter chocolate bites.
Yep.
So good.
Ragged Coast chocolates.
Yes, 100%. Check them out.
And our son Alex tried them and his fiance. And I think they want their chocolates at the wedding. So we're going to have to get with Kate and see how we can work that out.
That's right.
Okay.
Possibility.
Yep.
All right. We got to finish this brownie. Hardy Party of 5 1/2. Over and out.
We'll see you next time.